We're back. We are going to have another really gorgeous monthly training. And this month, we're going over a little bit of a couple of different things, but I think they're all, I mean, everything's interconnected, but I feel like these are kind of all interconnected. And it's why I wanted us to do them as like a big chunk. And so we're going to be talking about like comparison, you comparing yourself to maybe others, maybe even your past self. And there was also one of our beautiful ladies put on like the ideas for these videos is like balancing like self-discipline and when to be able to give yourself like a little bit of grace. And so I think I'm going to talk about um, two different things with that. We're not actually going to talk about self-discipline. I want us to actually talk about what like self-control is because I'll show you in a minute, but I want us to think of like self-control as like the foundation of everything. And then from there comes self-discipline. And so, like I said, all of these things, grit and grace, self-control, and when we're talking about comparison, they can all kind of be intertwined. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to just chat it out. And of course, one, if you have any more ideas, there's always the idea training video, like Google Doc that you can type in literally anything you might want to know about. I've got ideas for March and April, but keep them coming. I love it. And if not, I'm going to come up with what I think we want to talk about. Um, yay. So we're going to get rocking and rolling. So let me share my screen really quick. And so this right here is what I want us to think about. I know everybody here has thought about this or heard, comparison is the thief of joy. And I totally agree. I also believe that comparison is also a thief of reality, of success, of progress. And a lot of times, comparison is the thief of action. A lot of times when we are in this place, and I almost want us to think of comparison as judgment. It's like we're judging ourselves because of maybe there's like an expectation or you think you should be here or I will never be there or maybe there's some kind of story playing out. And at the end of the day, whenever we're on social media, whenever we are with our friends or with our maybe even your coach or with this, it's like what are we comparing, right? And I think there is a way that we can use comparison as like a way to catapult you forward versus it being this thief, right? Versus it taking away from you. Because who wants their life to be compared to somebody else's without context, right? And so that brings me into this next place of like, does it even make sense to compare yourself to someone you don't even have any idea like what their life looks like, right? You may know parts or bits and pieces, but do you know everything about their life, right? Like you may even, especially right now, I think social media is like a huge place. You see a girl on there and she's got all these muscles and you're like, her, yes, I want to be like her. And we have to step back and say, but what do we know about her, right? What is her life like? What is her um job? What does she do? Like what is she eating? What are her habits? Like how long has she been doing this? There's so many questions that come into my brain because I think at the end of the day, we start comparing ourselves to this person we've put on a pedestal. We've put them and they're like, "Oh, they're so perfect," or they've got it all together. And then I bring myself down, right? Versus, can I use that comparison to help inspire me, right? And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about self-control. But with this, it's hard it's hard not to compare ourselves with someone. I feel like we've been taught to compare ourselves to somebody. I feel like this has been, like competitiveness, like in that place, like in our lives when we were children, we were compared to someone else, our grades, how we showed up in the world, our job performance, this or that. And a lot of times it's just one of those things like we don't always just compare ourselves with other people. A lot of times we're comparing, especially I feel like in our like fat loss, maintenance, our muscle building journeys to a past self, right? How many of us have been like, I want to be X weight, right? Whatever that special number is, we use that probably from a past version of us that was there. But when I think about it, I'm like, well, is that past version of me, like that number that I chose, did we have the same goals? Are we on the same path? Probably not. And so this is where it can be a really big challenge when we're comparing ourselves, to other people, to ourselves, to old selves. And it can start taking away from how we show up, how, like, what our actions are, what we do, what we think is possible. And that to me is never something I want comparison to create in our world. I want comparison. If you're going to compare, I want you to use it as inspiration of like, well, she did that. So like I can do that too. Like that is possible. That is a possible pathway for me. Not using comparison as a judgment, right? But using comparison in a way because I think we're going to compare regardless. Even if I say to you, stop comparing, you're probably going to compare. Like you're still going to do it. I think it's human nature. But if we can even flip that switch of like, I'm going to judge myself now to, wow, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to use this, right? I'm going to use this person as an example, as an inspiration, as somebody I can look up to and be like, act like, like use them as that new identity you want to shift into. So this is where like I love to get even more nitty gritty. It's like, okay, if we are going to compare, right? If we are going to do this, let's do it, even if it's past you, let's do it with context, right? Let's start asking ourselves questions, start getting to the nitty gritty, start learning about that person as much as possible, and also step back to say, like, it doesn't matter, even if you were the exact same person. There's no way you would have the exact same result, right? Or the exact same life. You would have different things that like experiences, moments, dieting histories, all the things. So if we're going to compare, we need more context, right? And this is where I love to ask questions, especially when you start getting into that comparison trap. Like that, even if it's like, you had an injury in the gym and you're like, well, old me used to lift more weight than this. And it's like, well, T, are we comparing us at our best to when we have an injury? Is that fair? Right? Are we even giving a nice opportunity to compare and inspire? Or are we comparing to judge? And so these questions are some of my favorite. And this is something like have a list. I will post this little doc under here because it has a bunch of questions and stuff. So, if you want to come back and refer to it, do it. I love questions because it makes us stop and pause. It makes us be like, time out, right? Like, let's pause. Let's give ourselves an opportunity to challenge that judgy part, right? Because if we're not getting the opportunity to judge that, like, judge, to pause that, like, judgy thought and just get curious, we automatically start just deciding whatever we thought was true, right? Whatever this comparison is. Oh, well, we start like Patricia starts to pop in. Oh, I'll never get there. I'll never do this. I'll never be here. And it's like, wait, T, like, let's get curious first. So if you're noticing you're getting judgy about self, like, oh, I should be here, like, listen to your words. They're so powerful. I could go on. I'm going to try to stay on topic because your words will really matter with how you show up. That's why I'm big about the mindset and reframing words because even here, like you're hearing me say, like using comparison, if we're going to do it, let's use it as inspiration, not judgment. It allows us to be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm judging myself. Um, so here are my favorite comparison trap questions. And this can provide context or context that you literally don't even have. Like you're like, I don't know. I don't know. And if you're just going, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, that's a sign that we really don't know if that person's life is even sustainable for what you want, right? How they're showing up might not be what you want to do or how you want to live. That is why it's so important to remind yourself like you are this unique person that has this beautiful, unique life that you need to tailor this journey to you. So did she or does she, I guess I should have put does she have the exact same life as me? Right? So this can go into, like, does she work as much as I do? Does she have kids? Is she 20? Is she 50? Is she this? Is she that? Like all of these things matter, right? Because somebody with kids might has a very different life than someone who doesn't. Is she willing to make sacrifices that I'm not willing to make? For example, like I have totally given up alcohol. That's not something I can drink it. I know I can. It doesn't serve me. And I'd rather eat food. Honest confession, I'd rather just eat the food. So for me, I'm like, I'm willing to totally give up alcohol. A lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to have that ability to drink it when I want to. Beautiful, right? This is where you have to start looking at some of these pieces. And some you might not know about, you might not have known that about me, right? And you're like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that Sierra didn't do that, right? Do you have like a sick parent that you take care of, right? What are your responsibilities? Does that girl I'm comparing myself to have a bunch of boundaries in place? What are they? How does she show up when those boundaries get, shaken up? Does she have the same stressors as me? Like, and this is my favorite too. Does she have anything that impacts her body? I've had plenty of clients over the years with multiple different things, all of these, diabetes, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, PCOS, cancer, past cancer. I mean, I've had literally all different types of cancer like running through. This heavy periods can a lot of times be like estrogen dominance and your hormones being out of whack, emotional eating, ADHD. Maybe there is some other thing that I am, other autoimmune issues like celiac or Crohn's or, ulcerative colitis. Like there are so many things, IBS, we can like just keep bringing all the things, right? It's like, does she have that? Does she have something that impacts how her body responds to life, to stress, to foods, to, whatever? That's a big deal. Like all of this is a big deal because if, for example, I have hypothyroidism, my body responds very differently than a woman who doesn't, right? That poses some challenges along my journey. And the cool part is it doesn't stop my journey. It hasn't stopped my journey, but it does. It brings these things into play. And me comparing myself to somebody else, how does that serve me, right? I'm now judging my body and now it's like, oh, I'm broken or oh, now I can't do, right? The stories we start to create from that comparison, that judgment, really, versus like, oh my gosh, like that girl looks freaking incredible. Like she has habits and actions. Like she has things that I want to inspire to be like. And I think that is really, like, I keep saying that, but repetition, it sticks in the brain. Here's another really big one. Does she have a supportive spouse, right? Or a supportive family? I know I do. I am so blessed that my husband also likes to work out and um, deals with me and my food and craziness and like dealt with me over prep. And I don't mean like dealt with me like as he like he like sat like had to like handle everything. But like it's a lot, right? Having a supportive spouse, if you don't, that poses a challenge and a lot of pieces that you have to work through and a lot of, some dissonance in your life. These things, I'm not done. There's more questions. These things really do matter though. Like as you start hearing these questions, you're like, wow, think of that girl uh, maybe it's not even online, right? Maybe it's even like somebody you know in person that you're like, oh, she's just got it all together. She's so perfect. And, social media for majority of people is like a highlight reel. And, sometimes you get people being raw and real, but even those moments, you're not seeing their most like raw and real moments. Like you're not getting the true like impact of the emotion and all the, if you were a fly on the wall, you're seeing just a blip in their radar. And so we get to see these highlight reels and you're comparing your low lows to their like high highs all the time. So here's the other thing. Does she have the same genetics as me? My favorite question is, does she have the same dieting history as me? Was she a chronic dieter, right? Is she somebody that like never had to diet and then now is having to diet? Has she, yeah, but has she ever dieted? Has this been like a first? Or I love when women I love us when we compare to men. And I always share, it's like, well, that he just stops this one thing and he just drops 20 pounds. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense though, right? Think of the first diet you probably ever did. The first one, if you can even remember. I remember all the things, but it's like such a blur. It's like just like one big blur of like 20 years of life. But when I step back and like we think about men, it's like, well, most men don't diet like women. Their bodies haven't gone through the dieting history like we have, and our bodies are natural adapters. So the more we diet, the more it's like, oh, we know what you're doing. Let's tighten it up. Let's make it a little harder. We don't like this. Where men, they're like, yeah, I just dieted this one time, and then boom, the weight came off. So it's very real. Like we're comparing sometimes even to our spouses and they're like just dropping weight. And we forget like most women have dieted multiple times. Most, I would say most, not all, but most have dieted many times. The more we diet, that impacts how our body shows up. How long has she been doing this? How long have I been doing this? Sometimes you're looking at somebody who is like years in the future, right? I was a binge eater, right? I used to buffer with food all the time, and I am free. I haven't binged. I don't remember the last time I binged. But that took work and years and life and figuring out what worked and what didn't. And people be like, well, right? And it's like, no, it's just time, right? It's time. And a lot of times we just see like, oh, she's there. She's there. She must have just got it. And it's like, no, no, she probably had to work for it. Um, so I like to think of this as like, even if we're all doing this in the same, we all have the same things, right? Same timeline, same dieting history, same genetics, we're still in different books with different lives, right? And we're all in different chapters, even in our own books. You're in your book, you might be on chapter 20. I might be on chapter, book 3, chapter 17. We are on these different journeys and they aren't going to be the same. And it's almost like a choose your own adventure guide. Even when we think we've got the life planned out, things shift, things change. We change goals. We have new goals, new aspirations, new things we want to do. Um, yeah, that's going to change. So it's like even are our goals, this isn't on here, but like are our goals even the same? Like, do we have the same goal right now? Because that's really important to think of too. So this is my favorite one, especially on social media. What is she doing to get those results, right? What is she doing? Is that even something I'm willing to do, or is it even realistic for me in my life? Some of those people who are shredded year round that you see, you might step back and go, hey, what is their lifestyle like? I will tell you, most of those people, their lifestyle is going to be 95/5, 90/10. They are pretty set. They're probably following more like meal plan-ish. They're probably eating similar foods every day. There's not a lot of variety. And I don't say that as like someone who's like, oh, I think that's what they're doing. A lot of people are doing that. And a lot of those people that might be that way also sometimes don't have the best relationships with food. I've seen it, and it's not something I'm judging, like in my opinion. It's my opinion. It's my opinion that they don't have the best relationship with food. But there's these things that you can see, and some people do have a really beautiful relationship with food and they're eating 90/10 or 95/5. But there's this place where it's like, is that what you want, right? Are you somebody who's like, I'm just going to cook all my meals at home all the time. I am going to make sure like everything is, all whole foods, no packaged foods, none of this. Like, is that even realistic? That's not realistic for me. Like, when you've got kids, you're running around, sports, this, that, you've got a busy life, you've got this, and that, you're working 12 hours a day, it's your busy season. Like, no, right? So this is where if we step back and really start to compare with context, we can start going like, is this even somebody I want to compare myself to? Is this even helping me move forward? Or is she stopping me? Is this person that I'm following on social media? Or is that friend in my life? Or is that person that I talk to? Are they somebody that I do want to aspire to be like? Or in like, I always think of like, aspire to be like, or am I judging myself against them? And I'm making and putting them on some kind of pedestal that does not serve me. And I call it the comparison trap because, like I said, I'm going to scroll back up and then I'll come back down. Is this is very real because once we start that judgment, we start getting those stories in our head. Patricia starts ramping up and then this is what happens. We take away our wins. Our wins aren't going to be good enough. What we're doing isn't good enough. Like we start creating these stories that are more deeply rooted. Like I'm not good enough. I don't know if I can do this. Maybe I'm not cut out to like go as far as her. And it's like, well, are we even in the right phase of the journey are we there yet? Like, are we in that place? And it starts also creating almost like chaos within like, okay, well, then I need to go crazy and do these crazy actions. And it's like, is that realistic? Is that doable? Is that challenging for you? Because at the end of the day, it's not about like when we're trying to be in our journeys, we have to be where our feet are, right? Where we are, where our life is, and be present there. And sometimes we're present in other people's journeys and trying to be them when it's like, no, girl, you got to be you, do you for you. Um, and I think the big thing I see is people, it's stealing how they show up for themselves because of the stories that start playing, right? So it's like, think of comparison. I don't know why I keep doing that. Comparison, like judgment. If I'm judging myself, I need to take a pause and start getting clarity, right? Start getting context here. Start asking questions. Because if I start asking questions, I've actually done this with my husband when he gets in his own way. Um, I start asking questions. Well, time out. Like, who is this dude? Is he even somebody you want to be like, right? Does he have the same values and standards as you? It does he have kids? Oh no, he doesn't. Oh, okay. Does he like what does he do for work? Oh, okay. Like what are you doing for work, right? My husband's in the military. He's been nonstop, basically on call, working super late hours the past 2 months. And he's trying to compare himself to uh so many people. And I'm like, no, we're talking about this. And I think this can be a really great place when you start noticing Patricia, she's popping in, start asking questions and being curious and saying, hey, I'm judging. Let me get curious. Let me start putting more context. And if I don't have a lot of context, it might be like, hey, there's probably a lot here that I don't know and I don't see and I don't understand. Is this really me comparing with a good place in my heart and good intention to aspire to be someone? Or am I using it to kind of beat me down, right? I'm not a big fan of beat down sessions. Doing this journey out of like hate or punishment or anything will get you only so far. But doing it for yourself with love and self acceptance and self understanding and trust and honesty and patience and confidence, it just builds the most beautiful, beautiful journey. So, um, ask these questions. I mean it. When you're in that place, ask the questions, get very realistic with who you are and where you want to be. And you can even go back to January training. I'm like, where am I trying to get to? And, that person might be like multiple jumps down the road, and that doesn't mean you won't ever get there. You absolutely can. I believe if you want to, like, sky's the limit. Like, go. You are limitless. You choose your ceiling. Don't let anything stop you. But you also have to be here and move forward with where you are. And so, I feel like this piece, I just said, like, you probably have no clue who that person is and what you probably don't know all the ins and outs of every part of their life. And even if that's past you, there's a lot of things that have changed from where you were and like who you were in the past and where you are now in your journey. And even in your dieting journey, like so many ladies are like, well, when a long time ago, this worked really well for me. And it's like, it may have worked for a time, but if it was working, you probably would still be doing it. Or your body did change. Like your body did change and you may need to change with it. I used to be a cardio bunny. That worked for me for a really long time. It also exhausted me to death and I didn't love it and I didn't feel good. And I always felt noodly. The best way to put it. And, I look back and I'm like, I don't want to be noodly like that. That's not even my goals anymore. I have so many new goals and I don't ever want to be old Sierra. I'm looking forward, right? I can't look in the rear view and try to move backwards. It's like looking through the dash and going, that's where I'm going. That's my destination. So, you know, there's even that past you that maybe you're holding on to, like I used to be. And it's like, that's not the same person, right? That's not the same you. And this time, it's that opportunity to like push forward and say, hey, I'm here and I'm going to keep doing me. And if I find people that work that are doing things for them, beautiful. I'm going to go. Cool. Um, I will not do that. But this here, I like to say is like your body is like not greater than, equal to, or less than somebody else's. Your body, your journey is its own beautiful, unique thing. And it should be treated as such. Like if we were all doing the exact same thing, that would be so boring, right? Like we would be like, like nothing would be novel or exciting or interesting, or we wouldn't have anything to share with anybody. So it's like this piece right here, just keep doing you, right? Remind yourself like, hey, wait, am I getting so wrapped up in other people that I'm forgetting me and who I am? And so that brings us into self-control, right? Because, I know it's like comparison can also start to dabble in our control. And so what I wanted to do is somebody had asked about like balancing self-discipline. Like when do you say like let's go versus like I should rest, right? Or I deserve rest or I need this or like, you insert the thing here. And the big thing I think about when I hear that is um yes, I do think we want to talk about self-discipline and that might actually be a topic we can go more into depth in like in another one of these. But I actually think what we really need to talk about is self-control. And I know that might be like, dang it, us to talk about self-discipline. There's a reason I want us to talk about self-control first and then self-discipline, because we can't have self-discipline without self-control. And so I'm going to show you my little pyramid. Um, and this is the truth of, I'm being bold by saying the truth, in my opinion, based on like multiple things, psychology. Because if you've ever done like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this kind of fits in with like the top half of the pyramid, where, the bottom half is more like, this is what we just need to survive and function as just people. All people need these to be normal, successful. It's like, safety, security, protection, house, water, food, love. That's like the bottom. And then the top is usually like, self actualization and like you knowing yourself, believing. This part is actually kind of like more the top broken down. So I put self-control at the bottom because it is the foundation for your goals, for your intentions, and for how you want to move forward in the world, right? Because let's be real, you can't just go around like you get mad and you don't just go punch people, right? And people who do, they probably have some consequences, right? So self-control plays a really vital part that leads into self-discipline, right? When we have self-control, that allows us to use self-discipline. And then self-discipline, when we master this, it allows us to know this self-belief in ourself. We create new versions of ourselves, new stories, new mindsets, new like actions and habits and behaviors, identities, boom. And that leads into self-confidence. And I would even like, if I wanted to keep going, I would probably put at the very top right here, self-love. Because I think when you are acting in all of these ways, you are in the most loving place for yourself, like the most honest, respectful, the most caring place of you. And you're also really in alignment with like your values and standards, how you want to show up, who you are. You're just your like most authentic self, in my opinion. This is my opinion, but I really believe that you need this self-control layer as a foundation before you can move into self-discipline. So typically when people are struggling with self-discipline, it's because there's not this layer first, right? This first layer of self-control is huge. So let's get into self-control, right? Let's do it. Self-control is the ability to manage your impulse, your emotions, your behaviors to achieve like long-term goals, right? Without this, right, we're just kind of on that hamster wheel doing the same things over and over and over. It's like we're white knuckling through and we can be good for a time. And then it's like everything goes, right? And then it's like to white knuckling. And then it's like, ah. So, what I like to think of, because sometimes people are like, well, okay, what's the difference between discipline and self-control? Self-control is more like saying no. Okay. I'm saying no. Self-discipline is when I say yes. So, control is when I'm saying no to Patricia. Self-discipline is when I'm saying yes to me, my goals, and what my habits, actions, all of that, everything, right? So, how do we develop self-control, right? How do we do this? Because most people are like, oh, I just need you to come smack the cookies out of my hand, or I need you to follow me around and make sure I'm doing the thing. And it's like, girl, you do not need another person. You can create it. And it's going to take practice, repetition, and it's going to take some big nuggets. And so we're going to go through the big nuggets. Ready? Ready? I'm in it today. Um, we need clarity, right? We need clarity of what we want, right? How we want it, when, where, why. And the more clarity we have, the more direction forward we have. Like that is why last last month we talked about goals and standards and values and like really that piece because it's like if we don't know like where we're going or why we even want this, this can create a lot of chaos because your primitive brain, and I'm gonna like show a hand analogy, it's gonna come back, but like your primitive brain is kind of like where my thumb and my palm is, right? This is your primitive brain. Your primitive brain, this part is like your prefrontal cortex, which is right here. But your primitive brain is a pleasure seeker. It loves that like instant gratification. It loves that like, oh, yay, I'm winning right now, right? And sometimes winning can be our own like self-sabotage in our minds, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm resting and we're not doing something that we said we were going to do, which creates a lot of chaos in our brain. But this, I like to think of her as Patricia. This is Patricia, guys. This is Patricia because she's like the justifier. She's like, I'm like, I've been just really tired and I've been working so hard. I deserve to just let loose this weekend, right? I have been working so late. I just am gonna eat whatever I want. I deserve it, or I earned it, or like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. That's my favorite. I'll do it later. Um, there's always that part where it's almost like the excuse train. It's like, come on and sorry, I was gonna start singing. We're not gonna sing. Um, but that place where we're on the excuse train, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just allowing all of these pieces to say, I'm negotiating. I'm trying to justify why I shouldn't do the things that I want, right? And deep down, we're like, these are the actions I have set out to do. I want this goal really bad. I want this. But sometimes we lose this clarity, right? We lose the logic and the reason from that's what your prefrontal cortex does, is it gives us a lot of logic and reason. But well, here, we'll go into it. Its job, right? The prefrontal cortex, its job is to problem solve, to plan, to evaluate. It's logical. It's like, let's go. Emotional, right? Impulsive, emotional, doing whatever it wants. But what happens is anytime you have your prefrontal cortex working really well, we're able to kind of work through problems, right? We're able to like logically think through. But we need this clarity because without it, without the clarity, right? Without this clarity, primitive brain takes over and we're going to allow Patricia to walk all over us and let us do it. Well, it's a lot nicer if I could just rest right now. I'm pretty tired. And you probably are really tired. I don't doubt it, right? Like, I'm not doubting that what you're saying is not true. You probably did work really freaking hard this week. You did have a long week. You did work really long hours. You are tired. You are frustrated. You did have a stressful week, right? But that is this part of our brain saying, now because I was human, I get to kind of put my goals on pause because it feels good in the moment, right? It does, right? It always does. It always, we're in our own way. It's like, ah, this is like a reward. We're rewarding ourselves like, ah, this like rest time. I'm rewarding myself, but it causes more chaos later. And so that's why having this clarity of like what, how, when, where, and why is so important. And that's what I want you to think about. And this can be something that, you may want to write down, like even right now, like stop this and just write this down. My goal, that's the what, right? My goal is to lose, blah, 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 blah. I'm committed to how am I going to? What are the actions I am committing to? Including like, where am I doing this? Like, when am I doing it? And then, why is this so dang important to me, right? Or why doesn't this serve me? Like, why doesn't old habits serve me? Because this allows our prefrontal cortex to do its thing, right? When we have this clarity, we're not having to go through the like hey, I'm tired, I'm wait, like those justifications that we just kind of start accepting and saying like, well, I should rest. I should just like let go. It's like time out. What is my reason? Like, why am I doing this? And I know I'm bringing this back. I'm bringing it back. We're talking about it again because it's so dang important. It's so dang important. If we don't have this clarity, right? Where control, right? How do we even have control when we don't even know the path? It's like a tornado or a hurricane. It's like, I don't know, right? We're just going wherever the world takes us. That doesn't give us direction, right? When you put in GPS where you want to go, boom, you've got the path. Boom, here's your path, right? Here is your path. And then, of course, you've got your coach to help you along that path. They're they're literally the GPS. Oop, nope, right turn. We're going here. Actually, we're pivoting. Nope, this way. This is what we're doing. That's the beauty. So get clarity, get really nitty gritty so that you can truly know what we're doing. And then I'm bringing this back. This whole I like the brain because it's truly how we function. And I think the more we understand our brain, and weird, nerdy, I love it. But I feel like the more you understand your brain and understand why it does what it does, it helps us to move through it. And so the next part is we need to regulate our bodies. As high achieving women, we tend to be very high energy, high stress, go, go, go. I would even say a lot of times that perfectionista, like all or nothing, like let's go, like I can handle all the things, right? I'm going to handle all the things. But something really important is this. We need to regulate our nervous system. Like, if we want self-control, we need to regulate our nervous system because when your nervous system is deregulated, that means you are in fight or flight mode. Your sympathetic nervous system is on, it's wired. You are stressed and overwhelmed in all the emotions. When you get into that state, right? I'm going to come back here. This lovely prefrontal cortex, right? Our problem solving, our evaluating, our planning part of our brain flips up, right? We don't want our prefrontal cortex to actually flip up. We don't. We want our brain to look like this. I mean, it's going to look like this, but it really helps like to think about it this way. What happens is when we get stressed, the activity in your prefrontal cortex goes into that fight or flight mode and it flips open because this is now how you're emotionally going to respond to what's happening, right? This is where that like old, I'm getting chased by a tiger vibe is coming from. And so the big thing here is when it flips up, when we're stressed, when our bodies are stressed, when we're not regulated, we are not in a logical place anymore. We're not thinking logically. And when we're not thinking logically, right, we're not having the plan and the logic and the problem solving, evaluating. We're not in this place. We're not in the clarity piece anymore. Now we're in the impulsive place, right? This is where we just do. It's like, I don't even know why I did that. I just went and did it anyway. I just didn't even think. And so one of the big pieces is like we really need, and this is one of the things I will always stress is how important stress management is, even like sleep. I should have probably added that into this, sleep, because I know that can be a challenge for many women. But this piece right here, if we're regulating some of the best ways, and I didn't say this, but I will add here, the best way to strengthen. You can actually strengthen your prefrontal cortex. And we want to strengthen that because the more we can be in this like more rest and digest, more calm, more regulated state, the better we function and the more self-control we have, right? And so here, here, this is where we can step back and say, if we can meditate, right? Meditating can actually be one of the more powerful ways to train your prefrontal cortex because it is literally allowing thoughts and emotions to just be. And you're not responding, you're just being. And one of my like there's a lot of I actually think we should do like a really good one of these on meditating, like a whole monthly training on like different ways to meditate. But I'm going to share like one really quick one. And if anybody's ever interested, I know there's like some self-guided ones on YouTube. I have a couple that like I'm super happy to like share with you. If you're like interested, just say like, "Hey, Sarah, can you share those like self-guided meditations?" And I'm like, sure, because sometimes I know meditation can feel like a beast and we love to overcomplicate it. But one of the easiest ways to meditate is starting out with some really beautiful breathing. I love a nice, slow and controlled breath in through the nose and out through the nose. The more we don't breathe through our mouths, anytime we're like, even like throughout the day, if you catch yourself breathing in and out of your mouth, that's actually your body saying, I'm in a stressed state. That's actually kind of mimicking like you running from like exercising, right? That's why even like when we're working out, we are in fight or flight mode. But the more we can learn to breathe in through our nose and out through our nose, one, we're going to get a lot more deep breaths. But two, what it also does is it allows our body to not believe we're in, I keep doing this, but like not be in a stress state. So it's also helping regulate your nervous system. Now, breathing can be a really powerful tool because if you get stressed in literally any situation, you can stop and breathe. You can stop and breathe. I do it all the time. Like as a parent, I'm human. I get, overwhelmed or overstimulated. And sometimes, like you're in that stress spot and you want to impulse, and I have to just pause and go, I need to breathe. I need to take a beat. I need to pause. I need to breathe. And I need to, when you breathe, what happens? Because we're in this state, when you start breathing, you start bringing the prefrontal cortex back into action. And so now, instead of me being impulsive and reactive and like, "Rawr," I can actually come at it and be like more in a calm, regulated, more problem solving place instead of being like a problem finder and all the emotion. So really powerful. Now, out meditating. It's not even about the breathing. Breathing's powerful, but you can choose a word. I actually do this too. You can do this in your sleep if you're struggling to get to sleep. You can choose a word. And maybe it's whatever you want to feel, right? Because if you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, maybe it's you want to feel calm, or you want to feel peaceful, or you want to feel in control, or, whatever that feeling is. It's like, I don't want to feel this, right? So it's like, what's the opposite? I want to feel this. I want to feel happy. I like to go with calm or peace because when I'm stressed, I just want to be like, right? So I like to just repeat that word in and out. Like I don't even have to say it. I can just say it in my mind and it can be like calm, calm, calm. You can play with it. You could be like calm, calm. You can do all of that. I'm not even joking. And what will happen is thoughts, things that you need to do, like crazy ideas, this, that will be thrown your way. And you just say, nope, nope, we're not handling that right now. Nope. And then you go back to breathing and you go back to your word, calm, calm. And that is just like a one word meditation, but it's super easy, super powerful. You can like pick a word right now, and that can be like your go-to word, like calm, peace, super easy ones. Um, I mean, those are like my usual go-tos. And I do that even when I'm like, my brain is like rapid firing at night and I'm like, and it's like, my brain is like in fight or flight mode. We need to bring back the prefrontal cortex. We need to chill out. We need to get regulated. I breathe, and then I will start focusing on sleep. Sometimes I'll just say sleep or calm or peace. And just I will repeat that and let my body slowly come down. I've done that when I've had a bad nightmare. I come back. So that can be a really powerful way to regulate. Other ways that you can regulate your body and your nervous system, getting in the grass. I know this is not the best time of year for most people, but if you are in a warm, lovely place, you might, I'm gonna shut my window. You might be in a place where you can touch the grass with your feet. It might be warm enough. If you're able to do that, go get in the sun, go walk in the grass in your bare feet. It literally grounds you and brings you down, calms you, all of it. Walking can be, I didn't put that on the list. I should have. Walking can almost be like a meditative experience as well, because you're walking and there's um, trees and flowers and there's like all these branches and this and that, and you see all these, like, they're called fractals, where they like similar structures but they look different, and they're different like areas and heights and shapes and everything, but they're like similar things repeating in nature that can be really meditative too to the brain. So getting out in nature in general, I should have added that, but getting out in nature, beautiful. Like we just talked about, breathing is probably the most powerful thing that you can do. Like if you have a stressful exam, if you have a stressful appointment or something stressful incoming, the best thing you can do is breathe. Dancing, just like shaking out your body or just literally dancing, can be a really powerful way to regulate your nervous system. I do this often. I also listen to music often, and it can really depend on the music you put in your environment too. You might listen to some really like sad songs, or you might listen to, some really interesting music. Like I listen to all of it, like from Broadway to country to rap to whatever. I love music. But there's like certain music that you probably have that like brings the energy. That's what we want. Like that maybe it is calming, or and there are a couple, like I've got some different music if anybody wants like some like just good calming beats like for different hurts and stuff like that. I can always give recommendations. So or just really fun dancing music. I've got that too. And then meditating. So these are some really beautiful ways to help. And when we're in a regulated state, again, this helps create more self-control. Because when you're not in impulse mode and you are in action mode and like logical brain, you are in a place to make better choices and to stick with what you said you were going to do versus just winging it, right? So that goes into, oh, yeah, I already said this, but I kind of put it in the place of like, if we want to train our prefrontal cortex better, we meditate. But the cool part is that, like, I like to think of it as like we go train our muscles in the gym, right? We go lift. That's why we do it. We're building and shaping these beautiful muscles, and we can shape this beautiful muscle by meditating. And so anytime we do that, it's just giving us the opportunity to continuously practice self-control, like in those moments, because the thoughts are going to be just coming at us, like I said. And I think a lot of times too, something to think about is a lot of times we try to eliminate things. It's like, well, I'll just not have that, or I just won't bring that into the house. But there will be a time that you will be faced with something. It could be, somebody brings something into your environment, or you have to pivot in life, even though you've got the day perfectly planned and now you have to pivot. You're going to have times where you're going to face moments of stress and frustration and overwhelm. And even if you do your best to try to control it all. And so learning this can be a really powerful tool in these situations, like learning how to calm the chaos and even just kind of allowing the chaos to be, which sounds maybe crazy, but and letting the prefrontal cortex like do its thing, right? That's why it's there. It's there to help us be there and be proactive. Um, Environment. Yay. This one's really huge because we need boundaries for self-control. And if we don't have boundaries in our environment, again, then we allow more chaos and it allows more opportunity for us to lose self-control because there are no guidelines, right? I like to think of boundaries as like the bumper rails in a bowling alley, right? Because, not that it usually happens, but, if we bowl, it can go into the gutter, right? Or if you get a little too crazy, it could like pop the gutter and go into a totally different lane. But that's not our goal is to get down that path, right? Our path is forward to hit those pins. That's our goal, right? That's where we're headed. And anytime we're not allowing, even the bumpers, anytime it's going into the gutter, that means we're not following our boundaries. And a lot of times where boundaries break down is usually through people, like people we know in emotions or our environment. In our environment, we don't always have control over, even when you feel like you do. For example, I have kids when I was in prep, they were still eating the exact same foods they always did. I was surrounded by it. It was in my environment, even though I wasn't having any of it. And the biggest thing is I still had control over how I showed up and I had boundaries in place for me. And same thing goes here. Boundaries are just these guidelines that allow you to know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And that gives you, and it has to be comfortable for you too. I'm not saying it's like, well, this is it. This is it. I have to just like white knuckle it, right? It's like I have to define what my guidelines are. And that's about also communicating those boundaries with other people and owning your own needs and your own limits because other people aren't going to respect it or hold those for you. It's not their responsibility, right? Boundaries are for us. They're for us to uphold, not for someone else to. Even if you communicate so clearly, it could be to your kids, it could be to your spouse, it could be to your friend. They're going to push and test those limits. I don't care who they are. They're going to be like, oh, girl. I mean, like my husband would do that all the time. Like, he'd be like, are you sure? Like, when I was on prep, are you sure you just can't like order something here at the restaurant? Like, even if you choose like and I was like, no, no. And he did it out of a place of love. He wanted me to be involved in it and not feel like left out. But that wasn't part of my guidelines then, right? Now it is. I'm not on prep anymore. Yay. But that was like those boundaries that I had to uphold, and people are gonna push and test. But it's like, nope, bumper rails up, right? Bumper rails up, pathway forward. And they have to be comfortable for you. They have to serve you and they have to be within where you are. It doesn't have to be like this next 17 levels of you. It's like, hey, I'm going to this next level and this is my boundary. And those boundaries can grow and evolve over time, right? Nothing's ever set in stone. We can always shift, pivot them. Um, but some of these pieces we really want to get to the nitty gritty of like where are my environments, right? Like where is this in my world? Is it in my house? Is it, what is my environment like at my house? Do I have struggles or obstacles here? Do I need boundaries here? Right? Social media. You could be following um, lots of different things. You could be following certain people that you follow and you start comparing yourself to, and you notice, every time this person pops up, I just judge myself. Maybe it's time you mute. Oh, no, Teddy. You mute them, right? Maybe you don't unfollow them. Maybe you just need to like not see them for a time, or maybe you just need to unfollow them. You can always refollow them, right? Maybe it's not just like a person. Maybe it's even like you're trying to just do super simple, fast meals, right? and you're following a bunch of fancy schmancy recipes online that you're like, oh, that looks real good. And they're macro friendly meals, but you're like, every time I try to do these, I'm just exhausted and it takes too much time. And this is those aren't serving you, right? Those, even though it's like in our own way, or it's like, well, I'm finding all these great recipes and yay. But in our own way, if we step back, it's like it's also creating more chaos and stress. And it's also not serving, like if you want super simple meals and this meal's super complicated, that's not even really what you want, right? And of course, if I'm looking at super yummy food, I'm gonna want it. And something I did during prep was I muted a whole bunch of like, I follow, people who do, so funny because I don't make any of them. Just real. If you know me, I eat out of a bowl and I don't follow recipes. I just make my own concoctions basically, just with like a repeatable formula and a theme. Easy peasy, easy peasy. But I stopped following like all the things because I didn't want to see the crumble cookies and I didn't want to see those foods because I didn't need that in my environment, right? Like that didn't serve me during prep. Like that didn't serve who I was showing up as. And so even on social media, if there's people or accounts that you follow that like you start to realize like this person doesn't serve me or this company doesn't serve me, or this doesn't serve me, or doesn't add to my life, or it creates internal chaos or judgment or any of those pieces, sometimes we just need to like get those out of our environment because social media is now so much a part of our like my husband and I were talking about that. Like there used to be a time your environment was like so much smaller, but now we know everything about all the things, like the drama over here, what's happening in the world over there, this and this and this and this. Our attention is now like on all the things where, you think years and years ago, your little stress bubble was so much smaller. Now we've opened it up to the whole world where it used to be just in a smaller place. So really manage that place because now whatever you're bringing into that world, if it's not serving you, it's causing chaos, get it out, right? Because that's going to mess with impulse, right? This is going to bring in this unregulated self. And so the more we can create as much as we can control in our environments, the more we can put those boundaries in place. Same thing for work. This can be challenging, I know, for a lot of women, but having a really standard like start, end time, wind down time. Sometimes we think if I work more, work harder, it is better. And I always think better is better, quality over quantity, and pouring in while you're there and then giving your time out so you can spend it with your people, for you, for all the other things in your life, because work is not your only thing. All right. Relationships, right? Same thing. Are there boundaries I need to put in place with your parents, your in-laws, your sister, your brother, your friend? Relationships, maybe even in your workouts, right? Maybe you get on your phone a bunch. Maybe you are more distracted in your workouts and you're not like as focused. And maybe you go with a friend and she's like sitting there chatting with you, but you're like, I've got these goals to grow my glutes. And maybe that person's not serving you. Or maybe you just need to have a good conversation of like, hey, I love chatting with you and I love coming to the gym. But like when I'm in my set, like I don't like this is a boundary that I want. Like I don't want you to talk to me. I'm like gonna be locked in and then we can talk, when we're resting. But if you guys are flipping out, that makes it challenging, right? So it could be just those beautiful conversations. And then substances, I'm thinking more like alcohol, foods, candies, things that you put in your environment that you're like, this does not serve me. And it could be other things, but like those are the things I'm thinking of specifically food and alcohol. Because it's like, is this thing in my environment? Like you could ask this to any of these things. Is this thing in my environment making it easier to stick to my plan or harder? Right? And if the answer is harder, that's something that needs a boundary. It needs something because that is making your life harder. It's making your self-control harder, right? And so that boundary in place needs to be there. And I think one of the big pieces I will add is it is a-okay to say no. Learn to say no without the need to explain why. And that can be super hard, especially if you have that people pleasing, perfectionista type of energy. Remind yourself that if it is a boundary that you have and you've communicated it and somebody tests it, you can just say, no, I'm choosing not to. That's probably my favorite phrase because nobody wants to save me when I'm like, no, I'm actually just choosing this. Yep. Yep, I'm choosing it. So your environment. Now, these pieces are really, really big, but this next one is probably my favorite and something that us lovely women can put down very quickly. Um, we need to affirm ourselves, right? I talked about repetition earlier. The brain loves repetition, right? The brain also really is a powerhouse for storing memories of really powerful emotions. You most likely, I know I've probably said this before, but you most likely remember the really awful, bad memories. Those hold like such a vivid place in your brain. The other things that hold such a powerful place in your brain is really happy emotions, right? Very happy emotions. Like I can remember very specific days like that just I was over the moon, right? And I remember really like in the trenches hellish days. Now, a normal, average, ordinary day, not as much of that like remembering, right? Because it didn't have this like powerful play. You might, but the powerful emotions are going to be the ones that stick, which when we're trying to practice self-control, a lot of times we will not celebrate ourselves or affirm. Like this is affirmations, like affirming, like, yes. So we need to set these little benchmarks to find wins. And I see this a lot with women. It's like, well, that's not good enough. No, that, and this is something that we need to learn to accept, like these little gifts to ourselves. It's like a little compliment to yourself. It's a little gift. And anytime you shove that gift away, you're rejecting that. And I like to say, no, no, like praise the behaviors you want to repeat. If you crushed your macros today and it was the first day ever, you just take a minute to be like, I freaking did that. I crushed my macros today. Whoop. I'm not kidding. You can whoop, you can dance, you can like be like, yeah, I did that and own it, right? Because that little moment that you just did, what it did is it creates an emotion in your brain, and your brain's like, ooh, we like this, right? Powerful emotions, powerful, 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 because anytime you praise something, it gets repeated, right? I know if I tell like my like son, dude, you are just the biggest helper. Oh my gosh, I tell them I like talk behind their backs. Um, they'll be, I'll be talking to the husband about them and it'll be all positive things. Like instead of, usually it's like, oh, I'm going to tell dad on you. No, it's like, I'm going to tell dad all the good things. And they overhear like, oh, I'm so helpful and I'm so brave and oh, I did this and like they're hearing that, right? I'm affirming and praising the habits that I want them to repeat. So if I'm like, oh my gosh, Wyatt today, he fed the dogs with no, I didn't even have to ask him. Isn't that freaking amazing? Wyatt will be like, I'm gonna go feed the dogs today. Literally, a real example. Um, my youngest son was trying to help me clean the dishes the other day, which was adorable and a mess. But I praised him for it because, how amazing is it that he is trying to help our tribe? We talk about helping our tribe all the time. And so, whatever you want repeated, right? If you're trying to hit your macros, if you're trying to create a habit of drinking more water, if you are, trying to Be more consistent. It's like praise your consistency. Start being like, you know what? And a lot of times we start looking for the bad things. Well, I wasn't perfect. I didn't do this today. It wasn't, it's like flip the switch. I call it Operation Look for Hearts. Look for the wins, right? If you tell your brain to look for the wins, it will find them. If you tell your brain that nothing's good enough, it's going to go down that rabbit hole and it will stay on that rabbit hole. So, Operation Look for Hearts all day long. Find the power here because along the journey, the more you celebrate yourself, this is what actually I truly believe helps you enjoy the process, right? Because people who just get to an outcome, they're going to notice like that it doesn't stick. But and I'm not saying it won't stick, but there's going to be this piece where it's like, okay, well, I'm okay. I hit here and it's like, hey, the more you celebrate yourself along this journey, you really get to be in the process versus like, I'm just going after this result. I'm just going after this result. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I did this. Doesn't matter because your brain's not going to have that repetition and connection. And the more we praise, the more we're going to do it. And so take this opportunity. If you struggle with finding the wins, I'm not joking. Lean into your coach, talk to your coach, take a minute to be there and say, hey, I need help with this like habit that we are working on. I need help finding the wins. And your coach will be there to one, like help you see those wins, but two, remind you of those wins and help you to continue to look and find them. Because this is honestly such a powerful piece of self-control. Because if we want to change a behavior, if we praise it, less self-control, right? We don't have to have this impulse. It's like, this is, it turns into like, this is who I am and this is what I do. And I don't have to think about it. That's the power. It's a becoming. So praise, I'm huge about this. I'm huge. And it's why taking a minute to celebrate yourself is so powerful. And then there's tendencies. This is, I'll kind of keep this one a little quicker, but we have these tendencies that kind of shape how we show up and the behaviors we do. And what can happen is you kind of have to know how you operate, right? Like, be aware of who you are and how you do things because that's going to better serve you. And this little quiz, if you've never heard of Gretchen Rubin, she's pretty cool, but she basically has this quiz that can take you through, there's like four different like I wouldn't say personalities, but like ways that you process like internal and external like expectations. And so they kind of put them into like four categories of like how you do that. And the cool part is it's not that you need to change your tendencies, it's that you need to understand them, right? To understand them, then it can help you make better decisions, right? It's like this awareness of self of like, oh, this is how I show up and operate. It's a free quiz. So if you click on this, oh, I don't think it's allowed. I'll try to put the link maybe under here. Um, that way you have it. But you can click on it. It's like a free quiz. It emails you your results of like who you are, and it kind of gives you like an understanding, and it can just help you to know how to like understand yourself a little bit of like how you handle, like I said, these internal, external expectations, like how you kind of handle the world. And that can also help with your self-control. Cool. And then this one is huge. And I talk about this all the time, but your brain literally needs evidence, right? That it is possible. And the cool part is a lot of times we go, oh, well, I don't have evidence, right? Like I don't have evidence that I've ever done this before, or I have past evidence when I did a diet in the past, and then this happened, right? So sometimes we have negative or no past experience that or evidence that comes into play, right? But here's the cool part. You can use previous experience in other parts of your life that things are possible, right? Even if it was like an event or a challenge that you came to, you can actually step back and be like, whoa, I did that. And when we take a minute to use maybe other things that we do really well in like other parts of our life, and we want that to come into like nutrition and fitness, that can be a really, really powerful thing using previous experiences. Now, if your previous experience in a fat loss phase is different, or you had a different experience, right? Comparing, this goes back to that comparing game. Because if we're comparing a past experience that is so different than how we're doing things now, that past experience isn't as helpful, right? So sometimes what it can do is, or what we can do is use other people who have accomplished it. For example, I was the prime example. I know I shared in our like group chat earlier. Like I was a like binge eater, and I used food and alcohol to buffer a lot. I didn't like to feel my feelings. I binge ate. I'd wait till my husband was like he'd go to sleep. He didn't even know I binge ate. Like my husband didn't even know until like couple years ago, 2 years ago. I don't know. Recently, recently-ish. But those pieces, if you step back, it's like you can look at me and be like, oh, well, she did that, right? So I know that this pathway is possible, right? Using that comparison we talked about earlier as an opportunity of like aspiration. Like, I want to be like that, right? I can be like that. That is a pathway if I'm here. Or I just struggle with like, I struggled with a lot of self-loathing and people pleasing and perfectionista tendencies. And um, I hid myself away, right? I did a lot of like I don't want the world to see me. Like I need to hide these parts of me, like the dramatic pieces or this, and I should just make out sure everybody's happy, but I'm not happy, right? And I think you can always see other people and be like, well, they've done it, and if they have done it, that is just proof alone that I can do it, right? And it might take time, right? And we're not saying it's going to take the same amount of time. It might take you longer, it might take you shorter. This is where we don't compare, right? We compare with context. And we use that comparison to propel us forward versus judging, right? Like, well, I'm never going to be like that. I can't do that, right? The stories we start to create, no. And that's why I really want to talk about these together because I think they all like mesh together, like how comparison and self-control are kind of a little bit intertwined. Anyway, the other thing is you can listen to advice or from an expert or someone you can trust that has been on their own journey or done something. And that's why I like even leaning into your coach because I don't care who your coach is. Every single one of these ladies has been through their own journey. They get struggle. They've gotten through hard times and they can bring that into any situation. Same with this like first one. It's like using these experiences that we have that we can be like super empathetic and also say, but there is a way forward, right? There is a way through. But the more we can find evidence, right? The more we get a chance to see like what's going on. And something I love to do, I didn't put it in here. Mm, I should have. Well, not should, but like there's a lot going on here. But I can always share it later if anybody has more questions. I can even do like a quick click. But you can also, anytime your brain, Patricia, pops up, right? And she might be getting judgy and she's getting a little sassy and she's like, well, you can't do that. And there's like a thought that's like, well, whew, I'm not good enough. Like, whatever that thought is, it could be massive, right? If we step back, I like to call this a catch, challenge, change. Catch, challenge, change. So we catch the thought, right? And just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's a fact. It just means we had a thought. And then so we catch it, right? We almost like grab it in our brain, like, whoa, that's interesting. We get real curious and then we challenge it. It's like, well, is this true? Right? And this goes with our evidence. what evidence do I have for this thought? This one's easy because you're probably already justifying all the reason that thought is true. That's easy. Now, the harder part is to start challenging it by going, okay, what evidence do I have against this thought? Because what we're doing is we're proving that this thought doesn't have all the evidence to back it up. And evidence, even against something like a story that we're trying to tell, can be really powerful because then it's like, well, this thought isn't totally true, right? This thought isn't actually true. It's just something I'm choosing to believe. And so the power comes when you're like, oh, cool. Like now I can reframe this thought to allow the right evidence to come in, right? To find the wins, to find access to me. And so that can be super powerful. But you know you can accomplish a goal because this piece right here is something that you can write down on your own. Like I know that this goal I can accomplish because someone I look up to has accomplished a similar goal is write them down, right? Write down their names, right? Like write down what they did. Remind yourself like hey, they had to struggle. Like it wasn't just because like you hear my story, it was a struggle, right? Like it sounds right now, it's like, oh, I was a billionaire, now I'm not. And like, but it's like, no, it was a lot, like mentally, emotionally, physically, throughout the gambit, like kind of go through your own gauntlet. But the struggle gets to be part of it. Is the struggle goal. The struggle is what makes it. And that's how we grow, right? So someone you look up to that's accomplished this goal, or somebody that you trust and listen to, these can also be a really powerful way. Write this down, like have a little journal, and it can be something that you look through like every morning, right? Could go back to the clarity questions, write those down, and then you can even have this piece here of like, okay, I have evidence because of that. And that can be really powerful. Okay. Now, last piece. I know someone asked like that balance, and I know we kind of chatted about this a little bit, but I think it has a really powerful place here too, because when it comes to self-control, what I think people think about is like, I have to be in full control and grip that sand so tight. But if you've ever tried to grip sand really tight in your hands, you know you end up with like nothing left in your hand. But if you scoop it up and you're gentle, right, you can keep a lot more sand in your hand. Like, I know that putting sand in your hand isn't the greatest thing ever. Like, a bucket would be way better. But for this analogy, though, the more we try to control all the things, because you're not going to be able to, right? Not everything is. Life is going to happen. We get to be human. You get to be human. You're not a robot. You're not a machine. You don't operate like one. You can't just plug in and plug out. You are a person with emotions and a life and so many facets to who you are and how you operate, right? And so I love this as something to think about with self-control too, because sometimes I think it's almost that like grit, I think we get. It's like this strength, this resilience, this perseverance, this like push, the drive, the grind. Like I'm gonna fight through, right? But grace, I think, is also seen as like obviously like we talk about compassion and like giving yourself grace, but it can almost be like this space where we just say it's okay. Like it's okay. Oh, it's okay. I'll just stop, right? But the reality to anytime we have grit and grace is grace doesn't mean that we give in and give up. It's not like a total stop. It's like, okay, when life happens, and if I do have a moment where I let my primal self like take over, right? Because you're going to be human, it's going to happen. When we have those moments, we can step back and be like, okay, I'm not perfect. I get to be human, but I also doesn't mean I stop or I can't move forward. It's like I know when life is hard and things are hard and moments are hard and situations are hard and boundaries get tested and all of these pieces happen. It's stepping back and going, I know I'm going to need patience. I know I'm going to need understanding. I know I'm going to need to be flexible and adaptable. I know I'm going to have to pull a lot more from myself and know that it's going to be a little messy. It's not going to be perfect. And it's reminding yourself like this journey and self-control, you're not always going to be perfect. And that's not the goal or intention. It's learning, though, to have that self-control because sometimes we're going to need to say no, right? That control piece is saying, this doesn't serve me, right? This doesn't serve me. This doesn't serve my goals. This doesn't head me in the way I want to go, right? Is this making it easier or harder to get there? But when I think about this, this can be really powerful with self-control because sometimes it's like, well, I either do the thing or I don't. And it's like sometimes you have to pivot. And sometimes that's what I feel like grace is. It's like your pivot. It's like, okay, this is messy. This didn't happen like planned. And I'm going to have to be patient, understanding with myself, but I'm going to keep moving through it. I'm going to keep moving forward. And, I kind of put it like this, like when you're holding your boundaries, that's grit, right? But you're open to pivoting as needed. So this could be like your family all chose a restaurant and then last minute everybody changed. And you might have to hold your boundaries that, hey, I made a really beautiful, healthy choice at this other restaurant. And then now you're at a pizza place and you're like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get pizza, right? It's like, well, that doesn't mean we can't have pizza at the pizza place. Maybe it's just I need to pivot and adapt, but keep the boundaries that I set earlier, right? It could be like, you had a really hard day and you're tired, and you might realize like you planned on having an hour workout and life is throwing you 30 minutes and you might be like, well, I'm just not going to do it. It's like, no, we're just going to go do 30 minutes. 30 minutes is something, right? Something is better than nothing. And so we pivoted. It could be like having to pivot your strategy, having to pivot how you show up, having to, sometimes take a minute, say, hey, my body is sick and it's telling me something. I need to rethink my current strategy. Maybe even in your fat loss phase, maybe it's like, this isn't serving me in my body right now. I might need a really good maintenance phase. Um, Maybe I haven't been in one, those types of things. My favorite, and I think this is how I like to think of it, is be relentless, but yet be adaptable, right? Being relentless, like I'm not going to give up or I'm going to just be on this relentless pursuit of betterment, but I'm going to be adaptable. I'm going to be open to moving and trying to be fluid, and that can be challenging sometimes. But when we have grit with no grace, we're really rigid. And that can put us in a really messy place for ourselves, even just with your relationship with self and everything. And we're not able to handle the moments that happen. And that's where we might lose more control, right? Or it's if we have grace all the time and no grit, we're just going to kind of stay stuck. We're not going to push through when it's like, that's not what we want. So if we can master this place of being like gritty and graceful, like relentless, persevering, like strength, grit, like let's go, but also standing in the place of like, I'm going to have to be understanding and patient and flexible and adaptable and pivot, that's where the beauty comes in. Because when we can do that, and the more we, guess what, the more we practice it, and the more we praise these moments that are hard, that we struggle through, and then we get through, and it was like, okay, I did that. Celebrate yourself. Because these are the moments that help also build that self-control, that you took the moment, breathe, right? Ground yourself, take a moment to pause and say, hey, what can I do? What can I do in this moment that's going to push me through? Now, I know this was a lot. So if there's any thoughts or questions or anything you want, like feel free to jot things below, right? We can keep the combo going, like below this video, because I love the idea of like, if you've questions or if I said something that sparked like an idea or a thought that you just want to share, like please share. And next month we're gonna go through chatting about maintenance. I think maintenance is one of the most powerful phases that we can go through. And I think there's a lot of um, excitement after getting out of a deficit. But once you're in maintenance, there's a lot that I feel like personally what I've seen from clients in the past that can happen like mentally and emotionally. And what I want us to do is just really dive into the whole thing and um truly create a space where we can talk about maintenance and like what we want and our goals and like how it looks and mindset in it. Because if we don't have the right mindset, or I'm not even saying we don't have the right mindset, there can be just a lot of, we think, oh, maintenance life is going to be easy. And a lot of times it can actually be, I think, the most challenging of all because we've never been there. And I'm not saying, I think most women just never have spent time being in maintenance. We want to be in a deficit. And sometimes I really feel like a lot of us have dieted for so long we just don't even know what it's like to just not. And it's like, that's our goal. Our goal is not to be dieting all the time. That's not good for our bodies. Maintenance life is truly where we want to live. So I'm not going to start. I'm sorry, I'm going off. I won't continue. But what we'll do is we will go and chat about that next time. I have here, this is the ideas for training videos, I'm kind of trying to put like where things are popping in at, just so if you're looking forward. And then, of course, if you have anything else to add, please add. I love all the ideas. We want to make sure if there's anything, mindset or, even just something that you guys are really wanting to know training, nutrition, anything like that, we want to deep dive in, I'm here for it. So, keep adding to this, and I'm going to keep working through a lot of these pieces. And then, of course, like there's a place where if you want to know more about something, like jot it down. I love it. I hope you have a really beautiful, beautiful day. And let me know if there's anything you want to chat more about with this. And I look forward to next month with maintenance.